Welcome back, Stupid Fast Nation. Hope y'all are having a kick-ass weekend. We're getting back to work today on the YFZ 1000R. I'm very excited as we're approaching the end of the YFZ 1000 build. I really want to hear this thing, and I really want to ride this thing, and I know you guys want to hear it and see it ride just as much. In today's video, we're going to be working on the engine and potentially powder coating. Let's see how far we get with the engine first. We need to get this out of the frame and fully rebuild it from the ground up. I have an entire bottom end right there in this plastic tote that I got on eBay for 350 bucks. Unfortunately, when I bought this engine, the seller told me it was a complete engine and it was a very quick deal in a parking lot. And so I didn't really have a chance to check over little nitty-gritty details. It was missing the entire clutch basket assembly. I did not know that when I purchased it. That assembly alone to get it is $600 on eBay. That's literally more than I paid for this engine. And the bottom end was $350, and it came with the clutch basket and all of the stuff I need. So thank God we have pretty much everything we need to operate this. So I'll have a ton of spare parts from that. I'll make this run and ride, hopefully. So let's go ahead and get started tearing this thing apart. Alright guys, and before we get cracking on the YFZ 1000, I want to talk to you guys about today's video sponsor, Evolution Tools. Guys, they were kind enough to send out their top circular saw model. This sucker is not cheap, but you can tell the quality is extremely great. Putting this thing together, it was not only heavy, which is a very good indicator of it being a good saw, but also everything, the construction of this thing overall just looks incredible. It has very easy quick change features on it, which I personally love. You've got 3 handles here, and this top one can move around and you can place it for any type of piece. Each one of these has a removable slide on it with little pressurized ball bearings, so that way it doesn't just fall off. That's for like round and square pieces of steel. And you can also use the flat edge if you want, which is really awesome. So this bar in the front comes up. Obviously, like any other circular saw, you can change the entire angle of the saw, which we are going to be doing to cut this piece of steel. And then they also sent over this amazing cart, which you can actually fold this thing up and put it somewhere. So this saw bolts down on the tabletop, 4 half-inch bolts, so that baby's not going anywhere. And then this, you can take that off if you want, but probably what I'll do is fold it down and store it somewhere so it's out of the way and not in the rest of my clutter in the shop. So with that being said, I owe a huge thanks to Evolution Tools. Thank you so much for sponsoring the channel with this amazing piece of equipment. I will literally be using this for all of my cuts from now on. The cut itself is incredible. I've never had a chop saw like this. I'm used to carbon blades where there's a lot of sparks and a lot of heat involved because it's more like a friction style cut, where this saw blade, and they sent me one for each type of metal, by the way, also. But this saw blade is really neat. It's actually pretty new technology yet. It will do a dry cut. So basically what I've done here is set up a piece of rebar on this platform, and we're going to cut that and show how it works. No heat, cool to the touch, and that's what we're looking for, right? So let's set the angle real fast. I'm going to set it to 0 because I just wanted a straight cut. And you guys, you know, if any of you work in the construction industry, you know, rebar is pretty hard steel. It's not a, this one too is like 3/4 of an inch thick diameter, and it's solid steel. And this is just a regular steel blade. There's nothing special about it. Let's go ahead and give her a cut quick. Oh, you know what? I need glasses. Safety first. All right, I've got my glasses on. Let's give her a shot. Dang. Dang, boys. And they have these, this is probably my favorite feature right here. A couple screws, flip the top, boom. She slides right out of the way. Like, how simple is that? And look, you can see, we just cut that, and I'm literally holding that with my hand There's no heat at all, which is incredible and mind-boggling at the same time to me. I've never cut anything like that before. Definitely give this thing a shot if you can. Minimal sparks. Compared to my carbon blade, you would have saw a flood of sparks. There's only really a couple sparks coming off of that thing, so nothing crazy and cool to the touch. And that blade literally was like ice, like cutting ice. It literally was just a phew, went right through, no effort at all. So please give Evolution a look. If you guys are looking for awesome tools, this is just one of their amazing ones that they sent me. They have a whole lineup of stuff that you can take a look at. They're pretty well known. I've noticed they are all over the place, and they are also in the United States, which is a huge bonus for us, right? Support your fellow American business. So with that being said, let's get back to work on the YFZ 1000. Thanks, guys. Look in the description below and top comment. Let's get it.
Alright guys, I am extremely excited to get back to work, but I'm feeling a little bland because I know this is going to be a very, very long video, but I want to make sure I'm really thorough in giving you guys as much information as I can for your own building pleasure. With that being said, we have to get cracking on this thing so we can go ripping with Vasily in the very near future and his crazy power wheels. So we'll be getting started with beefing up the rear swing arm. I saw a couple comments in the other couple build videos I did on the YFZ 1000R about how this swing arm may flex under load a lot. So I'm listening to you guys and I'm adding some very important strength to it to potentially stop any added stress and flex when we're making 400 plus horsepower. Let's freaking go.
Just popped the flywheel cover off real quick. Stator flywheel cover. That way it gets past this front tube. It's a little bit easier. So that way I don't have to wrestle with this thing. Ta-da! Oh wait, un momento. Ta-da! Oh man. One to go. Ooh, that's a lot of weight on this little table.
Alright boys, and before we can get to the swing arm, we have to finish welding a few things, but we can do a quick time lapse of that and move on to some funner stuff rather quickly. Also, I apologize about the microphone issues. I've been trialing out some new microphones, so that way my sound is very nice and very clear and professional, although I've been struggling to find a cost-effective option. If you know something I don't, please feel free to share with me in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys all the time. Let's go. going to keep this fairly simple. I want to brace the swing arm in several key component areas where any type of torsional forces can be applied, like the rear carrier and these small tubes going back that hold it into position. I will brace all of these areas together with 1/2 inch mild steel plate, and then I will try to make it look semi-fancy, so when we powder coat this thing shocker yellow, everything should flow nicely, fingers crossed. Let's get to work. As you can see, the shop around me has changed quite a bit. I'll give you guys a little tour. I'll show you some really cool clips here. I've been working really hard the last 2 whole weeks. I have not filmed a video. I think in 3 weeks ago, I put out the Sand Wars video, and then 6 weeks ago, roughly, you guys saw basically the last video of the YFZ 1000R. We were finishing the fabrication on the frame, getting it ready for powder coat, and now we've got to get the engine ready. So with that being said, the shop now, I have this huge remodel I'm working on. I gutted everything out from under here. You guys know, probably from seeing in the background of some videos, that this under here was a mess. I call this my mezzanine. That's like 10 years of part storage just crammed up there, never gets touched. Well, this area is usually cluttered with parts and four-wheelers everywhere, and you can't barely walk under here or anything at all. And I usually do that to keep everything off the floor out there, but then the floor winds up getting messed up with a ton of machines anyways that I'm working on doing marketplace flips while doing cool YouTube builds and just a million things in between. So anyways, I got tired of seeing comments about how destroyed the shop is all the time, and I was like, all right, enough's enough. They're right. I should do some upgrading and make it look a little bit more professional. So I'm going to make this my new work area. I'm going to build right here, right in front of you. We could do engines on the tables. We could do quads and bikes right here, or whatever it is that we're doing right here. Try quads, bikes, and trikes. And then I've got the dyno to my left. I'll have a TV up over on the wall there so we can watch horsepower in real time, and you guys can watch it with me. I haven't got the dyno set up yet. I got it in position. I haven't worked with it yet, but I plan on doing that in the next couple weeks. I really want to get underneath here done first. Then I'll do dyno, and then I'll go do the rest of the shop. So with that being said, I've still got a lot of work to do under here yet. I've got to get all these used parts behind me kind of sorted and get covers on these cabinets and get that all blacked out so that everything looks nice and orderly down here for filming. I've got this lighting. I'm working on getting some hexagon lights up here and a bunch of other stuff. Not that important for this video. But like the title of the video says, I'm going to try and teach you guys how to put together a 300 horsepower street bike engine for our YFZ 1000R build. Now you say 300, well John, Google says these only make 180 horsepower, so it's probably like 160 to the wheel. Sure, but we're adding twin turbos, and we're going to cram as much boost as we can down this motor's throat, see how much horsepower we can get it to do. So with that being said, let's get moving on to getting this build rolling here. All right, guys, so I took some time this morning and I wrote out this nice little chart of basically what I like to call my builder's cheat sheet, the most optimal specs that I need for this engine,
before I put boost in it. So like this would be naturally aspirated. And then we're going to change some stuff along the way to get this motor ready for boost, hopefully. Anyways, so this is my cheat sheet. These are like the most valuable torque specifications that I think that I will need as a builder for this engine. We've got cylinder head torque specs, the sequence of the bolt pattern, you know, greasing, tightening, the whole procedure, backing, loosening them, read it. We'll go through that once we start putting this together, right? And I'll run you through all that. Connecting rods, the bolts, torque spec on those, the crankcase bolts, camshaft caps, cylinder head cover, camshaft sprocket, and then the valve clearance cold. I think those are the most necessary things. I can run you through why each one I think is necessary, but I think they pretty much hold their own weight. You know, cylinder head, obviously, we're going to be a lot of cylindrical pressure when we're putting boost down the throat of this thing. Connecting rods, obviously, when that piston's slamming down to the bottom and rotating back up, them rods are the only thing that holds it onto the crankshaft, so that's important. Crankcase bolts, that's everything that goes around the crankshaft when it's rotating at 14,000 RPM, because that's what we're going to be rotating this motor at. So that's really important. Camshaft caps, you're talking a steel camshaft on an aluminum girdle, basically, with a little bit of oil in between. I believe that torque spec is very important. They wear out on a lot of machines. Cylinder head cover, the valve cover, sometimes they leak, and it's a really brittle aluminum. So, yeah, I think that's important. Camshaft sprocket, yep, it's on the face of the camshaft, has the timing chain on it. Yep, I believe that's important. And then the valve clearance, obviously, we need proper valve clearances to keep the valves closed, not have a lot of chatter, make sure we get proper oil, etc., etc., etc. And then there's a slight difference between, now I think this motor behind me is a 2012. I looked up the part number off the cylinder head. It came back as a 2012. Why is that important? Because there was some slight changes between the 09 to 11 and then the 12 to the 14. And then the whole year range is 09 to 14. Minor differences, guys. Stuff that may or may not make or break a build. I wrote down one in specific for you guys because I thought it would be a very useful piece of information. In the 12 to 14, the valve clearance on the exhaust side only is slightly different than the 09 to 11. If we take a peek here, the exhaust side on the 09 to 11 is 83 thousandths to 98 thousandths of an inch, and then 12 to 14 is 91 thousandths to 106 10 thousandths, I think you would call that, because it extends one extra it'd be 106 thousandths. So, or 10,000, yeah, it would be 10,000. Not important. Anyways, they're like 10 thousandths difference between the two. It's not enough, in my opinion, to make that big of a, it's not going to be a make or break thing for the build, basically. So, anyways, you can see we have two engines. We have the one over my one shoulder. That's the 12. This one's an 09. Basically the same exact motor. There's really nothing different as far as like the casting and stuff goes, to my knowledge. You're free to correct me in the comments below. I can only give you guys the information that I have stored in my brain. I bought a lot of parts for this thing, very expensive parts. The stuff for these newer bikes is extremely expensive, and YouTube is not paying me enough to pay for this stuff. So this is all by your boy. Anyways, I'm told this motor's built like forged piston and rod combo. We'll see when we tear it apart. It's from Marketplace. I was on vacation in Myrtle Beach, North Carolina. Don't beat me up if I was wrong on that. It was a while ago. Picked that up for 500 bucks. When I took the one cover off in one video, I noticed the clutch basket was missing, and it was supposed to be a complete engine. So I went and bought another bottom end that had the clutch basket, because the clutch basket is $600. That's more than I paid for the motor. So I bought this bottom end for $350, and we get a bunch of spare parts with it in case we need anything for that one. So, like the clutch basket. So with that being said, I think we're good. Let's start getting this thing torn down and see where we end up. All right, guys, so this thing is extremely dirty, and I see that the valves are very dirty as well. There's a little bit of rust, nothing crazy, but definitely some surface rust on the valves. This is all clean metal and aluminum, right? And so things can corrode when they sit outside. This motor was probably sitting in somebody's backyard for at least a little while. But with that being said, this leads me to today's video sponsor, Vevor Tools. Tough tools, tough price. Can't beat that slogan. So with that being said, Vevor reached out to me. They were like, hey, how can we help your channel? We love your content. They hooked your boy up with an ultrasonic cleaner. It's been something I've wanted in my videos for 5 years. My neighbor has one. I constantly borrow it off of him. I'm always like, hey, can I bring a carburetor over and toss it in your cleaner? He's like, yeah, no problem. I'm like, damn, eventually I've got to get one. Well, guess what? Today I've got one of my own. I went on Vevor. I picked out the largest. I think it was 30 quart maybe, or something like 30 liter or 30 quart. It's very big. It's very big. It will fit this entire 4-cylinder head in, and I took a couple quick measurements. And so I don't know what the max temperature is of it, but I have it set to 65 Celsius. And there's a timer on it for the ultrasonic piece. You can kind of hear it running in the background now. I've had it heating up. It does take a little bit to heat up. It's about an hour and 15 minutes to get to the 65 Celsius. I think 65 Celsius is like 140, 150 degrees, somewhere in that general area. So I don't want to go too crazy with the aluminum because I did a couple test passes. And if you put the temp too high, it actually dirties the aluminum because I think it opens the pores up and allows it to suck in any dirt or dust. Anyways, not that important. I've been trialing and erroring things, trying to figure out the proper way for what metals, etc., etc., etc. And I think I've got the best way for you guys. So let's go ahead and time lapse through getting this cylinder head off. And then we'll take a look and see if we can get a 15-minute clean on it and what it looks like when it's done. And I'll get you guys some really cool close-up shots.
So let me be real with you guys. I always approach sponsors for the channel with great caution because there's way too much Chinese mockery going on in today's marketplace. So rest assured, what I bring to you guys here on the channel has been tested by me before doing any filming of any sort on it. You guys know me. I'm a big 6'3", 260 pounds of Big John, and I'm very, very hard on my things, both riding machines and my tools and whatnot. So if you're skeptical too, I urge you to proceed with confidence on my channel. Even the Temu tools I've been posting on my shorts content have been trialed with great success. My goal is to help all of you build the sickest machines with me, and if that means doing it on a budget, so be it. So let's get this stuff cleaned and get to work. For the mixture, I'm just doing a simple mixture of simple green and water, 50-50, and running this machine at 65 degrees Celsius for just 15 minutes. Out of the 5 different things I've trialed as far as time, temperature, and mixtures go, this so far has yielded me the best results. You check the results out for yourself and see for yourself. That's literally all I can ask, guys. Let's freaking go.
right, guys, now that we got our 30 minutes up, let's try and get this out without burning our fingers. Oh my God, I can see how clean it is already. So clean, my mic decided to exit stage left. I can see all of the intake valves are holding water in the intake, which is a great sign. It's kind of like doing a leak down test without actually doing a leak down test. So that's nice. Let's get all this water out of here though, yeah? Ow, that's hot. Sheesh, that's hot. Okay. No. I don't care if you sliced my finger. You ain't going back in yet. Did slice my finger. Man, I gotta tell you what, guys. This thing came out really, really nice. The thing looks like brand fucking new. Hey, guys, just for a quick example, this clamp made it through the ultrasonic cleaner. This one didn't. Here's a really cool comparison of what a before and after shot looks like in these things. Like, this is incredible. Are you kidding me? Is that not worth the money to you guys? Rather than scrubbing and cleaning and spraying or doing all of these other things, you just set it in there, let it do your thing, and boom, you've got clean, nice, fresh, usable parts to use. Highly recommend the Vevor ultrasonic cleaner, guys. Let's keep moving on. All right, guys, so obviously it's been a couple weeks since I've touched this motor. You know, I started filming this video basically, and some things happened. And then I kind of got in my own head for a little while because I was like, I really didn't want to do this motor as a naturally aspirated setup. My end goal with this build is to do a twin turbo, 400 horsepower to the tire, you know, drag ATV basically. But I want to do forged pistons and forged rods and a better set of rings because I don't think these are going to hold a lot of boost. Most cast stuff can only hold like maybe 5 to 8 pounds of boost. You usually can't go much further than that or increase your ignition timing to help aid turbo boost and stuff, or help get rid of turbo lag and stuff like that. So essentially, I have to run this naturally aspirated. I reached out to several companies. There's only one company I could find that makes forged pistons for this, and one company I could find that makes forged rods for this. And they're very, very expensive. And when you reach out and email, none of them respond back. So while I'm looking for funding for this stuff, or if I just have to hustle over the winter to get the money up to be able to do that, I have almost 2 engines here, basically. And so now that we got this all apart, we kind of know what's going on with this one because the rod bearings have a ton of play in them. There was one in particular. Hold on. Is it this last one here? Yep. I know y'all can hear that. That's bad. And this one doesn't want to rotate. This crank does not want to rotate. So I think this is going to be our parts motor. Originally, that was going to be the parts motor, but this one rotates so freely. It's buttery smooth. There's no problems with any of the rod bearings. There's the only problem I found on this one, other than I think there's things missing in the bottom of the oil pan. Outside of that, the piston rings are a little tight on the pistons. They look like they need a good cleaning. There's a lot of carbon buildup in them and stuff. So I think we'll pop the pistons off this one. We'll check out the bottom end, and we'll slap this one together and put that in our YFZ1000 because these motors haven't been split. So as long as it shifts through the gears fine, there's really no reason why we should have to disassemble this to check the transmission out. As long as we bench shift it, like I do on all my basket case stuff, we shouldn't really have an issue with this. there's no known issues that I've seen yet with these year R1s breaking transmissions down at their horsepower. So the oiling issue is the big thing. So we'll check some of the bearings and stuff out on this one, but I think we're going to assemble this motor, which I think is going to be our better naturally aspirated candidate. And then when we get some time here over the winter and some money and some parts, I will then, I literally just need cylinders and a head for this motor, and then we'll have a whole complete motor. We'll have a whole spare motor basically minus a clutch basket, which is fine. We can pull the clutch basket out of that one later. So this one will be a parts motor, and in a couple months when I go to do the twin turbo setup, I will do a full forged system on this one, and I will show you guys how to make some real freaking horsepower. We'll talk about ring gaps. We'll talk about bearing clearances, you know, all that real fun stuff that everybody wants to know about. So, but anyways, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started on this one. Let's get the oil pan off. Let's check out the bearings. Let's check out the shifting. Let's see what we need to do to make this thing ready to go for our YFC 1000R build. I'm so freaking stoked. It's been killing me to not been working on this thing for the last 3 to 4 weeks. I've been wanting to have this thing fully done already so I could be out ripping with Vasily, making some cool content for you guys. But instead, I'm stuck here putting this together and kind of trying to map all of this out properly. So anyways, let's get after it. All right, boys. So I've got some tools ready here. We're going to pop this oil pan off real quick. I do have all new seals for the entire motor, so anything we need, I have here available. But I want to get this off so that way I can see if there's anything wrong with anything under inside the pan, basically. And the guy that I bought this from on eBay made it very clear that this was a parts bottom end. And so that is why we are going to disassemble a bunch of this, because he just made sure to tell me, he's like, hey, you know, this isn't a complete bottom end or a complete engine. And I'm like, I understand that. It's $350 for a motor that normally is a couple $1,000s. So I totally understand. I literally only bought this for the clutch basket and just happened to get really lucky that it also had a really good crank and rods in it. We got really lucky with that one, didn't we? Or else we would have been buying stuff. So I guess technically we did buy stuff, but oh yeah. Looks good though. I mean, overall, look at that oil. That oil looks ridiculously clean. I do see some stuff in the oil pickup tube. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. That is hard. That is hard and will cut me. It just did cut me. It looks like plastic though. Or it's either a hard plastic or chunks of cast aluminum. I'll be honest with you guys though, it doesn't look like nothing's missing under here. And I'm going to be honest, since it's been a couple of weeks, because I normally don't skip in between filming videos. I normally film a whole video, post it, film a whole video, post it. Since I kind of been skipping around the last couple of weeks trying to get more content together for you guys, I don't know if earlier in the video I mentioned Rocky Mountain ATV, but this is a great time, a great opportunity to talk about Rocky Mountain ATV, because when you don't know what's potentially missing from a street bike, ATV, side-by-side, or a dirt bike, they literally, I think even snowmobiles are on there too. They have diagrams, parts diagrams, and exploded views of every little intricate piece. Every single thing. The gasket, the shim, the bolt, the size, the length, the everything. What is the thread? Is it an M6 by 1.0? Is it an M6 by 0.9? M6 by 0.8? Tells you all of those things, the actual manufacturer's part number, so that if you really want to find a used one for a good deal, you can go on eBay, check that out. That's something that I do all the time. I don't know the part numbers for every single thing that I'm dealing with. I go find the part number and I cross-reference it and I go find it online for the best deal that I can get it for, you know? So with that being said, check out Rocky Mountain ATV on the left side of the website. There's a 3-line bar. You hit that, go down to OEM parts, put in your year, make, model, and boom, you've got access to all the diagrams for the entire thing. If you guys want to purchase something in Rocky Mountain, it helps me out big time here on the channel. If you guys click the link in the description before you buy anything, doesn't cost you a penny extra, but definitely helps the channel out. And with that being said, I think I'm going to go check out the parts diagram quick, see if there's anything missing. And if not, we're going to check the shifting on this. We might just be getting away with just throwing a top end on this motor and using it. I'd be okay with doing that. We go beat the hell out of this thing, and then we'll throw the twin turbo setup, build an even better motor later on. So let me check out the parts diagram. Let's see what's going on with this thing. All right, boys. I took a look at the diagram, and it doesn't look like we're missing almost anything. The only thing is everything is loose. So like these bolts for the pickup tube and this the catch and all that stuff, like you can see that pipe's loose. This pipe is sticking out here. So I could see what he meant by, you know, this is a parts bottom end because everything's loose and he doesn't know like what the shape of the O-rings are and stuff like that. My guess is there may have been some noise from this motor, which seems to be a common issue with these. And so I'm going to I'm going to probably pull some of this out and check the pump because the water pump and oil pump are right here and they're literally combined together. So on the right side, you have the water pump and on the left side, you have the oil pump and they're kind of touching and screwed together, but I don't think, yeah. So the clutch has a chain coming down off the basket to this gear right here, and that drives the oil pump and the clutch. So I'm just going to go through some of this, look for missing O-rings and stuff like that. Make sure there's nothing missing. Make sure my pumps are operating properly. I can see up into the transmission from here to the bottom. I'll show you guys a close-up shot. You can see all the gears look beautiful. So really, it doesn't even look like, nobody had these cases split, I can tell you that. And the only damage to this motor is this right here. This nub is broken off. So that makes me think that maybe this bike was in an accident also. And then they were like, oh, we don't know if the motor's good, so we'll start pulling parts off of it or something like that, you know? Or they sold the head off it. Who knows, man? People do crazy stuff with their belongings sometimes because it's theirs and they can do whatever they want with it, you know? So anyways, without all that rambling and mumbo jumbo, let me just go through this real fast. I'm going to show you guys a close-up of the transmission. And then we got to move over here to the clutch side and we got to start getting this top end put together. But we got a new clutch and some other things on it that I want to install also. Let's get it going. All right, guys. So the transmission, you can see the clutch basket right there. There's a gear up on the back of the clutch basket. And then that chain comes down to this pulley right here, which drives the oil pump, which is this guy. And then next to it over here, that's the water pump. And they're just connected on the same shaft on the inside, and it rotates both the pump and the water pump. And I'm sure there's a seal in here that separates that. And that's going to be one thing I check because they could have been mixing it and they didn't know, or they knew and then they thought it was a head gasket. Like, who knows? But this is what happens when you buy a $300 engine that should be $1,200. And you have to go through every little thing just to see what's wrong. As you can see, the transmission gears look so stinking clean. Up in the back there, you can see them a little bit. I get a better look when I poke my big gingy head up in there. So anyways, let's keep moving, guys. Let's get her done. All right, guys, so check it out. I got the entire bottom end underneath the crankcase of this thing disassembled. We have the water pump and oil pump assembly. It looks really cool. Kind of looks like a small turbo of some sort, but essentially this is your water pump and oil pump. Oil pump is right here. It looks just like any other oil pump you've probably ever seen. And I don't know if I can get you guys a close-up of that or not. It's just like any oil pump in any ATV that you've seen with that little star in the middle of the round thing that moves around. And that's pretty much it. So when this spins, it also spins the water pump. I'm sure there's a seal or a gasket in here. I'm going to check that, make sure that's good. So I will take this apart because these have oiling issues. And I just want to make sure 100% we're good to go with the oiling piece of this because we're turning 14,000 RPM. got to make sure this thing has enough oil to the bearings. So we'll take that apart. The oil, like I said, the oil looked really clean in this engine. So I don't see any reason why we can't continue to use this engine. Like the bearings are in, if the oil looks that clean, there's nothing wrong with the bearings. There's no play in them or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and run those. I am going to take the pistons off though. I'm not happy with how the rings are sticky, and I don't want any issues going forward. Doesn't seem like all of them are, but regardless, I'll just take them apart. It really doesn't take that long. We'll pop them in the ultrasonic cleaner, which I have behind me here, currently warming up. And then I'll put that, we'll put the water and oil pump in, we'll put the oil restrictor in. This is the oil restrictor. There's a small spring in there, essentially, and it's called, not a restrictor, I'm sorry, I apologize. It is a relief valve. So it's the opposite of a restriction. It's to let excessive pressure blow over. So normally these springs are pressure tested for a certain pressure, and then if the oil pressure were to exceed a certain amount, it would blow out of this hole back into the oil pan. I'm going to check this out though, because this could be a potential issue of why they don't have enough oiling, and I'm going to do a little research before we put this guy back in. This could be a key component here to the mystery, the Yamaha mystery behind the oiling problems with these things. There's another thing I can do. I'm not going to do it in this video. Essentially, I'm going to give you guys the tips now to create the big horsepower, right? I won't give you the exact specs, but I'm going to give you the tips so that you can take it and run with it. The things I do for turbo motors, not that much. You don't need to do a lot unless you're looking at running a lot of boost. Now, if you want to stay low boost and kind of just like double your horsepower or get close to double, then there's not a lot you need to do. I've done tons of turbo motors over the last 20 some years, tons, and I've had great success with turbos. That is why I love turboing almost anything, because it's an easy, cheap win to get double the horsepower. You don't have to do all this crazy, I mean, you have to do some crazy stuff, but not like anything you wouldn't have to do if you were naturally aspirating and trying to double the horsepower, right? So if we're keeping stock pistons, I would change my ring gap. I would open that up a little bit. I don't know what the factory ring gap is for these, but I know on turbo LS stuff, I run anywhere from like an 18 to 20 thousandths all the way up to a 27 thousandths gap, which is big. You can get a little bit of blow by, but in the Chevy LS motors, the piston expands so much, you don't want that thermal expansion to make the ring press together. So that way, when the ring butts together, that's where the bad comes from with turbo stuff, because then that chops the top of the piston off, basically. It breaks it off, which I've had this happen a bunch of times already. Because, your boy's got to test to see if you have to actually gap the motor, the rings or not, to see if it'll hold boost. So this is all done through experience, guys. This isn't me winging it. I've had plenty of time to mess with turbos over the years. So anyways, we changed the top and the first and second ring gap to allow a little bit of blow by, so that thermal expansion, that cylindrical pressure, when that piston comes up, it doesn't heat the piston up and enough to let the rings butt. And that doesn't, like, you're not reducing the heat by opening the gap. You're just allowing that to bypass and have a little bit more breathing room, essentially. So ring gap, bearings, we usually put really good bearings in. If we're taking the bottom end apart, I have run stock bearings in a ton of turbo vehicles and had no issues. But if I'm gonna run stock rod bearings and rod and crank main and rod bearings, if I'm gonna run stock OEM bearings, I then will normally upgrade the oil pump on any engine I'm playing with. It doesn't matter what it is. I know LS is pretty reliable for the most part, but you still upgrade the oil pump. It's a known failure point on the LS motor, and you don't want to put all this work in, even if it's only a $500 motor. Who wants to do this shit 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times? I am a once and done guy. I want to put it together and be done with it. I want to go beat the balls off it for as long as I can. That's why the Banshee gets to sit for 6 to 8 months at a time, because I'm so friggin' tired of tearing the goddamn thing apart every time first gear decides to let loose. That's why we're going to a 2 through 5 in that one. Anyways, long-winded. So, ring gap, oil pump. LS's would have a Melling high volume oil pump you could buy for like $150. It's a great upgrade. These do not have any aftermarket oil pump upgrades yet. And I know what you're thinking. Well, John, why don't you create one? I've got a better solution. An easier, quicker win would be to change the gear size for the oil pump, which it would take a lot of math to do that. So I'm not 100% sure if that's something I'm going to get into, but if I do, it won't be on this motor. It's going to be on the next motor, because then I can overrun the oil pump a little bit. I could probably get a tighter spring for that relief valve. I got to remember that name now, relief valve. So if I get a tighter spring for that and a little bit, I think it would be small. Anyways, I got to do my math on it. I always get mixed up with the gear sizes. Like if you go bigger, anyways, I think since this is the one being driven, not the one driving, that if you make this gear smaller, it will make it run faster because it changes the circumference. If you shorten the circumference of it, it will make it spin faster because it's less time to get in a 360-degree rotation. So if we make a smaller gear for this, even if it's only 1 or 2 teeth, it's enough to raise the oil pressure a couple PSI. And I heard that these get down to like 5, but if they're 10 and up, they're pretty good. So if they get down, that's the same with LS's too. If you get down to 5 PSI, you're spinning a rod bearing. But if you've got 10, 15, even, at idle and even through the RPM range, usually it will live a while. Don't take that as, the best way to do things, because it's not. Just like I said, I've learned through my experiences with my LS stuff, turbo LS and turbo Hondas and turbo everything, guys. I will literally turbo a bicycle if I knew it would double the horsepower. Anyways, let me get this stuff in the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm going to take these pistons off, ultrasonic clean the heck out of those. And then, sorry. I was going on this whole spiel of what do you need to do to turbo it. And then I totally went left field there. My brain, it goes too fast sometimes for me to keep up with it. So piston rings, if you're keeping the stock bottom end, piston ring gap is extremely important. Bearing type can be important. If you decide you want to tear that far, you can run stock bearings if they're good shape. Oil pump upgrade, sometimes water pump upgrade. If you know you're going to be making more heat, more horsepower equals more heat. The more heat you build, the quicker you got to get it out of the motor. Water is one way in the cooling system to help get the heat out of the motor. That and the air cooling, right? So sometimes we upgrade the water pump. LS's, you can run a stock pump. This, you can probably run a stock pump, but we're going to have to see what the temperatures are like once we get this thing on a dyno with the turbo setup on it and everything. But naturally aspirated, this would literally be fine. Like people run their bikes around no problem. Putting it in an ATV chassis that's actually lighter than the bike would probably cause less heat overall, because it's less load for it to carry essentially, right? So anyways, I think that's majority of what I would do to the motor if I was doing a turbo setup. Now, obviously transmissions is a whole different conversation. These transmissions, I am told by other guys, that other R1 builders, that they are a great transmission. Comment below if you have a different experience. I'm all ears. I love to hear. It's just on? Yeah, it's on. I love to hear what's going on in the world of things. So anyways, I'm pretty sure that's all we're going to... Oh, bench test. God, can my mind slow down for 2 seconds? Let's do a quick bench test of the transmission, and we'll see if it's any good. I'm just going to not even pretend that I didn't already bench test it, since I already bench tested it off camera, and I know it's in great shape. I was mixing up the gear pattern because I wasn't sure which way the arm on the shifter lever faces. So this one, first gear was up because I have it backwards. So if we go up, we probably have to spin this. Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm in neutral. I'm in neutral because I can stick my right hand down there. I can spin the sprocket freely, and I'm not turning the crank at all. So we know that's neutral. All right. No, see, that's down, so that'd be second. Right, so that's first gear. So first gear, you hear that? That's me turning the sprocket until the dogs on the gears hit on the inside of the trans. Click, 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 click. And then if I spin this, it spins the sprocket with me. So, and then we do that. So that was up for first, down for, you heard the double click. So that's down for second. Same thing. I rotate it. We're good. Just moving the sprocket. I like to get a full rotation in each gear. So I have to grab the oil pump sprocket because that's still hanging on with no oil pump. So I have to hold that in place. But as you can see, she moves really nice and free. I'm just turning this with an oily hand on the flywheel. Let's keep going. There would be, what, third? Let's do one 360-degree rotation. Should be enough to see if anything's catching. Oh, sometimes it'll have to click. Yeah, I hear the click. Sometimes the dogs won't engage right away because when you're in gear and you're moving, the chain and that whole shaft that's connected to the sprocket are moving with the bike, which lets those gears click in. They kind of touch and then click in and lock. So you have to rotate it. That's why. So, yep. You can see I could actually spin that with the sprocket. Boom, boom. See? So that's that. Fifth. This piston's getting caught up right here. Oh yeah, we want to go this way anyways. Okay. Fifth and then sixth. Yep, she's spinning. So that's bench testing transmission 101. I do that with literally every machine that I build. I will not put it into the vehicle. I've had too many problems over the years with getting something fully put together, putting it in the machine, and then not bench testing it and going, what the heck? Something's wrong. I have a neutral. I have 6 neutrals. So I've learned through my experience to make sure that you do a proper bench test on these things. It will save you so much time in the long run. It is the #1 tip I could give you if you're doing basket case builds, guys. Always check to make sure the transmission works before it leaves the tabletop. You won't have headaches later on. So anyways, now I think I've got all my major tips in for making this thing a 300-400 horsepower twin turbo animal. Let's go ahead and get this stuff ultrasonic cleaned. Then we can get our clean pistons and rings put on. We'll talk about ring clocking, putting the cylinders and the head on. We're gonna have to do the clearances of the head, time it, put it all together, and then we should be ready to run this thing in the ATV. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. This thing is gonna be ridiculously fast. You stand here and don't move. Okay, now we have, guys, this is my 4-year-old daughter, Briella. You're gonna be in my video today. You wanna be in my video?
Yeah.
Yeah? So you can see yourself on the TV. Uh-huh. And I get the fist bump, no? Yeah? This is my helper. She has been asking me for a very long time if she can help me work on some stuff in the shop. For literal months has been begging me to come out here and build dirt bikes and 4-wheelers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How old are you?
4.
You are 4. When did you turn 4?
For my birthday.
Yeah, when was your birthday? Like a week ago, right? Like 2 weeks ago.
Saturday.
Yeah, it was Saturday. So she's gonna help me put some parts in quick, and then what are we doing afterwards?
Ride on the motorcycle.
Which one?
The blue one.
The blue one. She likes the YZ250. So she's gonna help me put this stuff in the ultrasonic cleaner, and then we're gonna go take the YZ250 for a ripper, right? And then we're gonna finish putting the motor together.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna get you over here. I can't have you just turn this way a little bit. All right, turn this way. Stay. Hold on to this. Put your hand on that. Yeah, it's a little dirty, but don't worry about that. We'll wash your hands. All right, now this baby is all the way up to temp, 60 degrees Celsius.
Is that yucky water?
It's sort of yucky water, but not exactly yucky water, if that makes sense.
Daddy, did you make that so yucky?
Did I make it so yucky?
Yeah.
No.
Then who made it yucky?
Yeah, I guess I did make it yucky.
You're tricking me.
I didn't mean to trick you.
Does that say Daddy?
No, it says Summit Hill. That's where Daddy lived when he was a little kid.
Leah was a little kid.
Yeah, but Leah didn't live in Summit Hill.
Well, she lived on Grammy's phone, but Grammy just showed me some pictures. It was just Leah's faces with Abby.
Oh.
Grammy had a doggy named was Abby.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I see.
What is that dirty like water on that thing?
Could actually use a little more water in that. I think we'll be okay for this, though. Yeah, we'll be okay.
Daddy, I really want to go on the roof, so.
Okay, honey. I'm going to set the timer on this, and then we literally have to shut the camera off, because if we don't, it makes these horrible noises in the camera, because the frequency of the ultrasonic cleaner operates at a frequency that sound can transmit through camera equipment, apparently. Okay? So I'm going to turn the button on, and we're going to go ride the YZ250. What do you think?
Good.
All right, cool. Let's get it. All right, guys. See you in 15. Videoing? What'd you say?
I got my doggy to go to
Hey, give her some throttle. Hey, give her some gas. No. This is gas. This is gas. That's the kill switch. Here, hold on. I got you. All right, watch out. Don't touch nothing.
Good job, Bella.
You want me to do it? Alright. Yes. Okay, now you can put your hands wherever you want. You ready?
Alright guys, so we've got everything cleaned up and we're ready to start reassembling things. I think we're gonna have a pretty solid engine on our hands. I took some time and I threw a quick little surface and clean job on the top of the cylinder head, and I did try to clean some of this black stuff off. I think this is like sealant from the gaskets, but it's not really creating anything that I can feel on the aluminum. So it's so thin, and I try scraping it off with a razor blade, and it is extremely hard to get it off. I even tried a metal brush. I can't really get it off. It's extremely difficult. And so I'm just going to put the gasket on over top. I don't normally do stuff like that, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything either. I have the confidence. I think that we're going to be okay. So I think what we'll do first is we'll get these pistons installed on this thing. Pistons and rings. I got all that stuff cleaned up in the ultrasonic cleaner, and then we should be good to go. We can install those. We got to clock the rings, which we'll talk about that in a second. Get all the circlips put in. Doesn't matter if I drop them because they'll go right down to the table or down in the transmission, so I have to be careful. And yeah, we can put the top end on this, get it in time, put the oil pump, water pump assembly back on with new gaskets and O-rings, and that's pretty much it, guys. We get the oil pan smacked on it, get the side covers on her. It'll be literally ready to go back into the YFZ. So let's get cranking on this thing. I want to get working here. I want to get this done. I only have a little bit before I have to leave. I wonder how good these came out. All right, now there's two things we got to talk about here with rings. One is some rings are some have tapers. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's a slight taper down to the front, and some of them have more of a key design. I think you guys can see that one pretty good. Hold on, I'm trying. There we go. Come on. We get that out of the picture. Come on. There it is. I think you guys can see it here on the inside edge a little bit. Right here where my fingernail is. There's that little, it's like a downhill. It's not flat across. This ring is not square, okay? You have to pay very specific attention to that inside lip because the piston, the grooves for the rings are meant exactly for that to fit in there. It's machined in a way where that is going to sit in there a certain way. So you have to be really careful, guys. And now I'm going to have to go look at, thank God I have a spare motor here, so I don't have to go sit on the internet for an hour and a half and research which ring goes where, because I totally forgot to keep track of that. That's a rookie mistake, guys. Don't do that. Because not everybody's going to have a motor sitting around to check. A stock motor might have you. Yeah, so that ring goes on the top. Inhale, exhale. I just need to know which way the key goes, guys. That's kind of the main thing here. Sometimes they have a number on them also. Well, I know this is the top ring, though. The one that's got the groove on the top, I want to say that's called a keystone, but I can't remember. It's been so long. That's my top ring. It doesn't look like there's a thing machined for it, but it still has to be done that way. So the other thing, the dot, there's a dot. There's always an indicator on the pistons for which way they should face. 99% of the time you have a dot or an arrow and it faces the exhaust. Wiseco's famous for putting an arrow on them and you point them towards the exhaust. So because these valve reliefs that are cut into these are specifically for the valve, so in either the intake or the exhaust. Can't swap them because the reliefs are bigger for the intakes and smaller for the exhaust, which is pretty common in majority of engines. What I want to talk about now is ring clocking, though, real quick. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to be generous with the amount of oil that you, like when I go to put the rings in, normally I put them in and I put a little oil in the grooves so that they can move around freely and not get stuck or caught up in anything. So basically with ring clocking, oh, I like that. And these oil, the oil rings are gas ported, which is pretty cool. I don't know if you guys know what gas porting is or not. Anyways, let's take a look here. So basically with ring clocking, you have a ring gap on every single ring that goes on, right? Because it starts, puts it on, boom. These gaps should not line up with each other. So I've got the top ring, the second ring, and then I've got 3 rings that create the oil ring. 2 metal and the 1 corrugated is what I call it. Basically the oil catch that scrapes the oil down the side of the cylinder for you. And then the top and the second ring, those are your compression seals. These rings can't line up. So typically what we do for a ring clocking pattern is we do a star pattern. We'll face the gaps. My first and second ring, I'll go like this. 1, 2. So it's 180 degrees apart. And then the other 2, I will go this way and this way. And then the corrugated ring, I usually don't really care where the gap of the corrugated ring is because in all my years of experience, I've tried the corrugated gap everywhere on a piston and it never, ever smokes. So I don't care where the gap of the corrugation ring goes. And the corrugated ring is this one, guys. It's this little one with all the lumps and stuff on it. I call it corrugated because it reminds me of a cardboard box. It kind of has that corrugation to the inside of a cardboard box. So that goes in between the 2 thinner rings because you have these like extremely thin, very wobbly rings. They're not very heavy duty. So those go with the corrugated ring. Those don't, on this bike, those don't have a special way to align. They are just a standard ring. There's no up or down on those. So those three are good. But the first and the second ring, sometimes there are. Like I said, the key, the groove, and the sometimes they'll have a number on them. If they have a number on them, I've never seen one where the number faces down. All the instructions always tell you to face the numbers up. These don't have any numbers on them. So I'm going to assume the second ring can go in either way because it does not have that taper or groove to it like the top one does. So we should be okay then. Yeah, I don't see a taper or groove to that one, but this one definitely does, and that's our top ring. So some people use ring spreaders. I've been doing it by hand my entire life. So we've got the exhaust. I like to always do each one exactly the same. So we've got the exhaust. I'll point it like that. I'll set my first gap up here on the right. Let me make sure I've got this incorrect, and I don't. I want to screw that up. Yeah, so then boom. I just take the first edge, kind of put it in the piston like that, and then just chase it around. I grab this side with a finger, kind of just chase it around like that. And then I pick this side up and over, so I don't want to scrape the piston because it's aluminum. You can scratch that surface really freaking easy. And you can see our rings aren't sticky anymore, right? That's pretty good. So, like I said, we're going to put some oil on this because John, don't play games like that. I want my stuff to be working right. So we're going to get some oil on the inside there. Boom, boom. I like it a lot. Okay. So dots forward, facing the gap there. I'm going to face this one down left. I like my top two to be 180 apart. Some people don't do that. I think that's a mistake. I think you should always do the top and second ring 180 apart. I don't think there's any reason why they should be closer together. And sometimes the rings will move in the cylinder too. Not a lot, not often, but on high revving beasts like this, I wouldn't be surprised if they move a little bit. You know what I mean? So if they're closer, they can come closer together and create that blow by. And then you'll be smoking and you'll be like, why did I listen to John? Why did I build a motor? Because I missed that one detail about ring clocking. So I've actually had that happen to me once or twice. I think it was a Honda 400EX though. And those are the only one, even though they're ridiculously reliable, they still can sometimes smoke. The oil rings are just not strong on them sometimes, and they blow those puppies out. So, okay, so gaps facing 180. I like it. And I'm just kind of like pinching the rings and moving it around in case there is like micro debris, because these gaps or these grooves are so tiny for the rings. So I just want to make sure, like I'm so meticulous about stuff like that, where I don't have problems when we fire this up. I don't have to take it apart a second time. Who wants to do that? So it's just so much easier if I do it this way meticulously the first time, and then we'll be good to go. Also, the thing I do now with this corrugated ring, I used to just not care where the gap goes, and I know I just said that, but thinking about it here for a second, and I was like, wait a second, you don't actually do that. You actually always put it up the top, right in the middle. But like I said, it's not really going to matter. Just don't line it up with any of the other gaps. That's the big thing here. And then you should be good. Should being the key word. But I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm a perfect builder. I have had my fair share of mistakes, guys. And I have learned quite a few lessons over the years on what to do and what not to do. So take what you want from it. That's what I tell everybody that I talk to about this kind of stuff. I say, take whatever good that you can get from it and run as fast as you can and do whatever you can with it. Take all the good from everything and anything, pretty much. You know, that's the positive to take away from this. So take the good from any situation you can. Don't always take the negative. All right, gap there. Let's do a gap over here. And my fear with the oil rings, guys, is these things are so tiny. They're so flimsy. They're really easy to get caught when you're putting the cylinder on with your pants down. Oh, did I say that out loud? And basically, it becomes difficult to get it into the cylinder, especially when you're doing 4 of them. And the oil ring sometimes, because it's the last one that goes in, so if the piston's cocked a little bit or something like that, the bottom taper of the cylinder doesn't, because we can't install this like a regular car. Well, actually, we could. We could if we take the rod bolts out. Boy, it's going to be an interesting one. Normally with cars, when you do multiple cylinder stuff, if any of you have ever done like V8 rebuilds or anything, you have a ring compressor that goes around the piston. It's like a big metal thing, and you tighten it down with a wrench, and it hugs the rings into the piston, and then you put that over the cylinder. You leave the skirt of the piston stick out, you put that in the cylinder, knock that in with the rod on it, and then you would push that all the way down the cylinder, get the rod onto the crank, and then torque that down with the bearings and everything, right? But in this case, I like the way this feels, and I'm not taking the rods off. Alright guys, so looking this brand new gasket kit over, I can see it did not come with a base gasket. So unfortunately, we are going to have to clean this old one off and reuse it. I'm not a big fan of doing that, but unfortunately we don't really have much of a choice. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up, toss this on. I went back to leave them feedback on why does a gasket kit not come, why does a top end gasket kit not come with a base cylinder gasket? I don't know. I have no explanation for that one. But yeah, so we're going to just, gently wipe this thing off and toss her on. And a cool little trick I wanted to tell you guys about when you're running boosted stuff, turbo, this, that, and the other thing. These multi-layer steel head gaskets is what we use in everything when we turbo stuff, right? And so we'll typically use this in the head studs like I was talking about earlier. However, there's another trick that I'm going to tell you guys. The old school, the old head Chevy 350 guys and small block Ford guys and stuff like that, they would buy a copper head gasket, a really thick copper head gasket, and then the head would squish down on that. And that's what they would do to seal the cylinder pressures really well, especially under boost, right? So, but copper head gaskets are actually really hard to find. You can have companies custom make them for you, which also is a pain in the ass, and it's not cheap, but you can have that done. I have not had it done, so I don't have any personal experience with it, because what I normally do is I will take a copper spray like Permatex. They make this awesome copper spray, and then you spray the gasket both sides, let it tack up, and then put it down onto your head gasket sealing surface. Oh, I wonder why that's like that. It's interesting. So yeah. But anyways, this is going to be very interesting. So, okay, I think that's okay. Getting the cylinders on is going to be quite the hassle. And I'm kind of showing you guys this with great reason. You guys will have to forgive me for so much sniffing. But unfortunately, I am a sinus guy. I get sinuses like crazy. So guys, what I'm doing now is just lubricating the cylinder with oil. It's just 10W30. Some guys like to use Permatex assembly lube. I think I did talk about that earlier in the video. I have not looked to edit it yet or anything like that. I'm literally just been still putting this together. But a lot of guys use Permatex, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that, honest to God. And I've got nothing against it. Sometimes I use it, but I normally use it for fresh engines. Ones that are already worn in, just a little bit of oil to get everything back together should do just fine. As long as the engine's not going to sit for a period, we'll be okay. I think it's going to be extremely difficult to maneuver that in a way. Like the piston's going to go down below the cylinder and the rings are going to pop out. And that's not what we want. We have to get the rings in the cylinder. I have a tool for this. Ring compressor. Boop. It's that simple. This will go over the piston. Will shrink down. And boom, it will squeeze the rings in. And then you can put them on. You can just hold that flush against the cylinder head. Give that a few taps with a rubber mallet. Bada bing, bada boom. She'll be attached to the rod. I need a rubber mallet. Rubber mallet. And I need something to tighten that guy up. So we're going to need a little square bit. I know I have a wrench, but I don't know where it is. Because I have so many tools and so much stuff, it gets a little ridiculous trying to keep track of everything sometimes. But good thing I have tons of cases full of bits and other things that it doesn't bother me. If I need something, I can literally just find it here. This is my Milwaukee kit. You can see there's a lot of bits in this thing, but nothing's going to fit this one. So give me 1 second. So a small 1/4 inch, I think it'd be 1/4 inch, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. 1/4 inch bit will fit in there and turn that nicely. So we'll take the piston. Now I have all the rings clocked already. Top ring gap there, bottom ring gap there. So 1, 2, and then I have the oil, and then I have the separator, which is the little corrugated ring is what I call it, because it looks like a corrugated inside of a cardboard box. We're pointing that towards the exhaust. Right in the front where that little dot is. We'll throw some oil on this guy. We don't want her dry. None of them like it dry. So we'll get some oil on this guy. And yes, I do majority of this barehanded because I like working with my hands a good bit. So boom, boom, boom. All right, and we'll lock and load these suckers in. And you literally just put that guy in there like that. We're on low. You gotta be careful, man. These things are sharp. They will slice your fingers. And you gotta be careful because these can sit crooked also. The piston can sit crooked in there and then it winds up leaving a gap. And you'll see that right there. I know you can see that light gap right here. So we have to close that. You can't leave that open. Normally, I will then take the bit out and I will do this by hand. But I think what we're going to do is grab a small extension with a small ratchet, this is probably a way better approach. Do this by hand. And what I mean by that is like this, right? So we'll use a 1/4 inch wrench, and then I will do this by hand. Because I really don't want to slice my hand today. I'm not going to lie, guys. Just really not in the mood for pain today. And you got to have this thing tight, man. There's still a gap there. I think normally I'm used to doing bigger pistons with this. That's why. Is that good? That's close, man. You have to be really cautious about this, guys, because if you go to put this in and you have a big gap, still see a little gap right there. Think about that, right? Because the ring's going to go out to that edge if it can. But, I mean, we can definitely try to put it in. If I break a ring, the good news is I have spares. So the important part here, now I have the cylinder resting on the rod down here, so it can't go down anymore right now. It can't crush these other pistons or hurt anything. I will gently keep pressure against the cylinder head so that this metal surface sits completely flush. And sometimes sometimes this edge here will get raised up, which would allow the ring to catch on the way down. So you have to make sure that this is flush all the way around. This is important details that a lot of people miss. Now, this is what the rubber mallet's for. You hold this against. Once I get it in, I usually check, make sure I'm like pretty square yet with the cylinder. And then I give it a good hit. Because if you go light, sometimes the rings pop out from the side. So we try to do it in one swoop. Boom, boom. Nope, we didn't get it. I don't think we got it. Yeah, we didn't get it. See, I popped, it looks like I popped out on the bottom. I don't know, it's hard to tell. There. Oh my God, I was so nervous for a second. I was like, did I break the ring? We got it though. Boom, 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 boom. See? She's definitely gonna have compression. Yeah, there we go. So that's a nice tight fit. I actually really like how tightly that fits in there. This got me thinking, guys. It's got me thinking a lot. Guys, I apologize if this video is a little on the boring side. This one, I kind of wanted to be more of a teacher for you guys so you can see how to do this stuff yourself. It wasn't about essentially making a cool, fun video. So it won't, like it's not going to have all the crazy editing I normally do. I will have some, obviously, nice editing to it, but I don't think it's going to be the, news-breaking story for YouTube or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not meant to get a ton of views. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Okay. Get that guy squared up. Get her tight on there. Yeah, that's about the same as it was before. You can see a slight gap there, but there's no ring sticking out. So that makes me think we'll be okay. What I like to do is stick the bottoms of the piston out just a little bit. And then, because when we put this on the cylinder, then I don't have to worry about whether I'm within the same circumference of the piston. It's literally started is what I call it, right? So it's pre-started, ready to go. Boom, got it. Okay. Man, I'm really happy that went together so nice. Okay, now let's get the pistons down to the bottom. Okay, now that's about as far as we can go. Oh boy, this is gonna be fun. Build fast stuff, they said. It'll be fun, they said. I wonder if I can just do all four. No way, dude. Them inner ones are gonna be a nightmare. All right, boys. Well, I guess you can tell at this point, we are disassembling the case half. As much as I don't want to do this, I pretty much have no other choice. I don't think we're going to be able to get the piston rings without hurting anything to seat properly. So I'm not even going to chance that. We're just going to split this case. It really is just all these bolts around the bottom, I think. So we're going to pop all that off. This should just slide right off then. And then we can have direct access to the rods. We'll pop the caps off. We'll have all the rods out. Then we can put the cylinders in. Yeah, and that should be how we do it. So let's get all this popped off real quick. Oh yeah, they're tight. Whoo! And then I'm gonna have to reseal the case, which kind of sucks. That's what I was trying not to have to do, but you know, it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do in a time of need like this. So unfortunately, we don't have much of a choice. We're just gonna have to deal. See, I hate this adapter. These Harbor Freight adapters just fall apart after a while. Okay. Get over here. Okay. One at a time, guys. We crack them loose, then we'll get the impact over here. See, this is why I like the extension. I don't want to strip them. And I know my impact's not going to do it. Maybe this extension will work better. See, I have a problem with this wanting to kind of come off. You see how loose that is? 12. Well, I don't think it's an 11 won't fit. I don't think it's definitely not standard. Everything these days is metric, so well, you give the impact a shot. I definitely don't think it's gonna work, but nah. All right, what's the plan here, John? How are we gonna get these things off of here? Wish I had a way to hold the engine in place. This is where a second set of hands comes in hand. I gotta find a better extension. The Harbor Freight one's letting me down, guys. It is letting me down. Them angled edges just aren't gonna work. All right, that's better. Yeah, I could deal with that. See, I can't have that coming off like that, though. Whew, I can see why these motors spin 14,000 RPM. That one was not as tight. I feel bad for small people. I gotta do this. I'm a big guy and I lift weights. And I'm struggling. Mama didn't raise no bitch, so. Okay, now we gotta get these ones. Yep. So we'll go around, buzz these out. I love impacts. Best tool for us. Makes these jobs so easy. Just don't do that and strip it. Okay. I'm going to try and leave all these bolts in. That's all the 10s. Now let's go back and zip out all the 12s. Boom. One there. I think that's all of them. I'm not saying this is going to come apart easy, because they're usually not so easy. And it's silicone together. And which makes me think, did Yamaha do black silicone, or was this thing apart already? Probably it was apart already. That's my best guess. Yeah. Never hurts to go around and pull all the bolts out by hand, even if you're leaving them in, just to kind of make sure nothing's binding you up when you go to take this off, because you really don't want to break the case, right? And these types of things only take a couple extra seconds, so there's no harm in checking if 1 or 2 threads is catching. Make sure it's freed up and ready to go. And then the other thing is, I'm not sure, it looks like that may be connected too, so we may be taking off this cover, which would want to pull the chain and sprocket for the oil pump up and out. We don't want that to happen. So the easiest thing to do in that case is going to be to take them out. Wait, the stator. Do you have to take the stator off? Does that hold stuff together? Let's take a look at this other motor. Dang, it does. It's got a bolt. It's got bolts around the whole thing. 2 on the bottom, 1 on the top. So this is the kind of stuff you got to look out for, guys. I was trying to leave the stator and flywheel on here, but unfortunately we're going to have to take it off real quick because the stator has 1 bolt that's on the top case, or I should say 2 on the bottom, and then 1 on the top case. All right, guys, I found my little Amazon pulley set. I was overlooking it. Got this guy on Amazon. This is an M18 by 1.5. That is what fits in the end here. Thankfully, I found one. Boom. Should be just wrap this sucker on. Boom. She comes right off. Just like that, guys. That's how it should be. Simple as that. Okay, that's beat that. I'll set that over there. Now we have to get these 3 Torx out. These are Torx. Not a lot of stuff's Torx. I can tell you that. Okay, thank you. Press in hard. And don't give her the beans. You don't want to strip her out. If you know what I mean. Don't give her the beans. You'll strip her out if you know what I mean. I'm hoping we should be able to get this sucker cracked open now. Oh yeah, baby. Yeah, let's go. All right, now I can see this is catching over here. Now we can go back and take this Allen key out of the side that we ditched before because we couldn't get to it because it was covered by the clutch basket gear. Boom. And it's just, when you build stuff like this, guys, you got to be cognizantly aware of all the things operating within the engine. Okay, that's that. Get this out of there quick. I don't want to drop stuff in the motor. That's the last thing I want to do. Come on. You've been so nice to me so far. Don't stop now. I like kind motors. Just give me the bolt. Nobody gets hurt. Boom, got it. Okay. Well, I guess the good news is the transmission looks beautiful, and I don't see any reason why we should fear this motor. Not fear it, I guess I should say, because it is a very powerful engine. Let's get this off quick. Boom. Dude, that was actually way easier than I thought. Cool. Just finding a place Finding places to set stuff can be a challenge sometimes. Now, I'm not going to touch anything at all. I just want you guys to have an open look at this thing. Bada bing, bada boom. We'll lay that there. We're going to clean this up real nice. And then, yeah, all the oil passageways look good. There's an oil passage here to the crank. Bearings look beautiful. Crank looks gorgeous. I've got no fears at all. The journals are all perfect, guys. This is exactly what you want the inside of your engine to look like. Clean, lubricated, no scarring. I'm happy. Counterbalance shaft is here, so we're not going to misalign that. I might actually check the timing on that though. But let's get these rods off, and then I can install everything from the other side. Now you see we can access the rod caps a little bit better than we did before. So let's get these things off. Let's get this thing put together. Gonna need 12 point for this. Let me guess, it's gonna be a 10 mil, and I don't have a 10 mil. I have a 9. I have an 11. It's a 10. Yay me. Oh my God, I am shocked. Moment of truth. Oh wow, beautiful. Damn, that is gorgeous. Beautiful. Now, we have this thing called a fingernail test we normally do. You take your fingernail, scratch the surface, and as long as you can't feel anything, you're good to go. You go against the grain with that, guys. Against the grain. All right, now, quick tips. When you're taking stuff like this apart, pay attention to orientation. Orientation meaning which way does the rod face, which way does stuff face. Direction is extremely important. These things are designed in a very specific manner. You can see all these lines here are pointing this way. And the Yamaha manual tells you specifically this mark must line up with the Y. It says that right in the manual. So we're going to do this just to hold them together for a second until I get the pistons all in the cylinders and these on, and then we will drop that all in somehow. I don't know how yet, without this all falling out and caving out. And then we will torque these down. We will talk about the torque sequence. How'd that happen? What? Impossible. Now I just took this apart, and oh crap, sorry. The first thing I noticed, you see the bearing? Now I don't know if I did that or not. I have to look, but you could see the bearing on the edges right here and here. The bearing is cocked. The bearing is supposed to be line to line. And then they have these little tabs bent over, and they go into these little grooves in the rod. So let's see how easy they move. If they move really easy, then I know it was me who did it. Like if this, see how it doesn't want to, usually you can just, no, that means I didn't do that. Interesting. This should slide right into place. See, like that. She should be pretty flush. So I can get us focused in here. There we go. And then they usually, these marks, these tabs, right here and right here, usually go backwards. So the line goes with the Y. And you can see the tabs are backwards. One tab is on the far side, one tab is on the near side. And that stops them from wanting to rotate the bearing when this thing's rotating at 14,000 RPM, making several hundred horsepower. Okay, so that did move pretty easy once I put it down on the thing. I can live with that. But yeah, so this is kind of how it's supposed to look. Come on, camera. There you go. Boom. Okay. So when we take the other ones out, we're going to pay very specific attention to that. I want to see if that was a me thing. Okay, so that's that. We're going to set this down. Let's get the next one out. Okay. And that definitely wasn't me. That bearing sticks up and out too. Now I'm going to check the manual. There could be something here that I'm missing, but I don't think there is. But I will check the manual and I will report the results back to you guys. Let me get the rest of this uninstalled and ready to go. Alright guys, I'm not going to say this is going to be an easy task by any means. This will be my first street bike motor that I'm doing a full kind of split the case deal, but this is what you end up with. 4 pistons, 4 rods. All the wrist pin clips are in. All the rods are facing the same exact way they were when I took them off. I even double checked the manual. The Y on the right side of the rod should face this little dimple here. Boom, boom. By the way, Yamaha also says we should use engine oil for lubricant. So that's pretty cool that Yamaha backed me up on that one. I think we're ready to get this sucker on. This is going to be an interesting challenge only because essentially I don't want to rotate this motor up too much because then like this will fall out. This gear set will fall out. How do you even get the second gear set out? Oh, I bet you get that one out from the top. Maybe because there's a case on the top, but that might not just fall right out either. So maybe we can get away with this. Let's try. I'm always willing to try the most efficient methods that I can think of. That actually sliced my finger. You bitch. That hurt. Whatever. Anyways, let's see. Is that going to fall out? No. Okay. So we're going to have to, yeah. Oh, you got to laugh, guys, okay? You have to laugh because if you don't laugh, you're going to go insane, which is what I do actually do sometimes here in the shop. So I actually drive myself insane being by myself all the time. Okay, now, rods, get up in there the best you can. Yep. Oh, man, you gotta be careful. Gotta be careful, John. Oh, whew, that's scary. I don't want to break anything. All this aluminum. I'm gonna try something different. Things I go through to make horsepower for the channel, man. I'll tell you. Yeah, guys. Yeah. Because I want to be the world's fastest something. Okay, now you're going on this time, whether you like it or not. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, now see, that's what I'm talking about there. Okay. I'm just gonna snug, guys, snug. We have to go back and torque these. See, I'm snugging. I'm not actually putting any torque on it. Okay, now we can do the rest of the rods without that thing falling out. The force of the piston and the cylinder squeezing together with the rings is enough to hold that in place for us temporarily. So I've got all my rod caps over here ready to place onto the rods itself. So just like I would do a V8 from the bottom like this. All my LS motors were done like this. Okay. Get this one. You have to be very careful, guys. You don't want to scratch the crank journals. So some people will actually put stuff on these things. Are these cracked rods? Oh, snap. These are cracked rods. Man, I hope I'm going to have to check these and make sure they're on the right ones. I think I lined them all up properly. You can't mix cracked rods up. By cracked rods, guys, you can see this literally looks like it was cracked, right? They don't machine these anymore. They just do a cracked rod where they kind of put a chisel on it and snap it off. So we have to pay very special attention and making sure that these go together properly. They look like though. Yeah, I didn't misalign anything. I'm usually pretty good about keeping all my stuff organized. I did have them all in order. I knew that. And then looking at the cracks, they line. You like literally. Let me just show you guys a close up of this so that you're not questioning this, right? So like when you're done tightening your cracked rod down, you literally can't even tell where the crack is, okay? So that's literally how you know you've got your crack lined up properly. See how I can see the crack there? Now when I tighten that down, let's just give that one a quick little snugger. Okay? Boom. The crack disappears. That is how you know you have your cracked rods lined up properly. That needs to be what it looks like. If there's gaps and other things that you can see in here, it's not on properly. It's not lined up. Either it's with the wrong rod or it's backwards. So pay special attention. I actually forgot that these were cracked rods on this one. So forgive me for that. The LS also, the Chevy LS V8 is a cracked rod style. It's pretty common nowadays. Manufacturers like to do that because it keeps things cheaper and more economical. So okay, let me get a torque wrench set up. We got to get these torqued down. There's a special sequence. We'll go over that in a second. Then we have to put sealant on the case, and we can torque down the case, and then we can finish putting the head and timing equipment on, and then boom, we're pretty much done. All right, guys, so we got all of our rods in position. As you can see, the cylinder is down there. Everything looks okay. I think we can start torquing the rods down. Now, the procedure for this is a little different than a Honda K24 or a Chevy LS or even a Yamaha Banshee. The torque specifications, the way you tighten these is a little bit different. So for this, for the 09, the 012, I looked up both of them. And basically in the 09, they want you to put 14 foot-pounds. So as you can see there, I've got 14 foot-pounds on. And on our little board over here where I wrote everything down earlier in the video, you can see the connecting rod. It says grease of threads, 20 Newton meters or 14 foot-pounds. And then on top of that, you have to do 145 to 155 degrees of turn. And so basically, just to quickly show you guys kind of like what 145 degrees looks like, we can do this. So 360 degrees of rotation is a circle, right? 180 degrees of rotation is half a circle. So full circle, 360. Half circle, 180. We need to get between 145 to 155 degrees of rotation. So if we do a quarter of our full rotation, that's going to be 90. So we need to get right about here, and that'll get us our target. Not halfway of the quarter, just a smidge over the halfway mark. Some people will use an angle gauge torque wrench for this. I cheat. I just know angles, so I'll get it pretty damn close, and that's going to be good enough in my book. For this naturally aspirated engine, if I was doing, well, actually, when we do forged rods, you won't have to do angles anymore. It will be just a specified torque setting. I'm pretty sure that's how they do it. for the forged rod and piston deal. But anyways, for the naturally aspirated, you know, just getting it within a couple degrees is going to be fine, guys. You don't actually need an angle torque gauge to do this. So let's get these things torqued down. And then we will be able to move on with the finished assembly of this thing. I'm excited. I want to get her done. I want to hear her run. Okay, so it's 168 inch-pounds. This only goes up to 150. I at least want to get it there. All right, so that's 150. Actually, it goes up 160. There we go. All right, now let's try this and see. Ah, see, that one clicks nice. That I can deal with. Okay, so that's 14 foot-pounds. See, torque, it's very important. That other torque wrench was a Harbor Freight torque wrench, and I have been using that for like 5 or 6 years. So it is extremely outdated. This one I barely ever touch, so it doesn't ever have tension on it. Just calm down. Okay. Okay. So that, boom. Boom. We're going to go back over a second time. Boom. 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 Okay. That's that. I'm happy with that. Now we can put the case half on, which is a pretty easy task. I probably shouldn't have said that. Probably shouldn't have said that. All right, let's look here. What do we see, guys? What do we see? We got to put this clutch gear in here. Need to go. I'm going to go look at the manual. I want to see what kind of sealant Yamaha recommends before doing anything. I just want to make sure, because just to, you know, show you guys what's kind of going on here. There's like lots of little oil passages all over the place on this thing, on the edge of the block. And if you look really carefully, this one's a really good indicator. Yeah, see, look, this line right here, you can see that's a sealant line. That's what that black is right there. That's silicone. So that's a sealant line. So they're not coming close to the journals with sealant. They're staying away from the journals. Yep. And you can't see it on this side, but you can see it there. There's several of them that are like that. And this is not like a two-stroke. We do not need to do the center caps like on a Banshee. So this will literally just be the whole outside of this to stop oil from exiting the side cover. So yeah, let me go look up what type for this real fast, and then we'll get that bottom case half on. All right, fellas, let's add our angle to these rod bolts. What I like to do is kind of line this thing up. Now I hold this tight. I like it to be straight across, and my 90 degrees is going to be straight down. So we'll go from here to here. That will be 90. Then I will bring this back up until it's straight across, and then I will bring it just a little past halfway of my half moon. So somewhere like right in here. So every single one's got to be done like this, guys. Every single one. Let's tuck this guy back up in there. Whew, that is tight. Wait. Yeah, 145 to 150 degrees, yeah. Damn. We're going to do the same for this one. Oh, we're straight up and down. I think I like facing it this way a little better. It's a little easier for me to tighten it. That's only 90. Sheesh. They're freaking tight, man. That's for sure. God, just feels too tight to me. And it still rotates, so can't be that bad. So that's 90. Now we have to go, you hear me, I'm only going one click. Okay, now this is going to be interesting. It's about right. Pretty close. Yeah. I'll do the same for this one. Yep. Okay. Wait, yeah. Wait, let me put my cap back on this quick so this doesn't dry out, because I got ready to put this on and then went, oh crap, don't forget to put the angle. Okay. Couple more degrees, guys. We got to do all of them like that. And that's pretty good. You can see it still rotates completely free. There's nothing stopping this from rotating. So it's not like that's too much torque for the rod cap, because it's not. That's literally how it's designed. It's designed to do exactly that. So let me get these tightened down. Then we're going to apply sealant to the case and get the case half on. All right, guys. Took the hoodie off. I got a little heated there for a second because the crank popped out and one of the pistons, the rings kind of edged its way out of the cylinder a little bit, because the cylinder, there's no way for me to hold that down. There's no 1 or 2 bolts on the side of them like a YFZ 450 that kind of hold it down, or 1 bolt like an RMZ 250 where it holds it to the surface for you so you can rotate the crank. No, they did this one a little half-assed and they didn't put the bolt there. So the cylinders will just move as you're trying to turn the crank, and the pistons and rods and that are moving, and they shoved the cylinder out. So as I was rotating it to do that, one of them popped out, but I got it back in without taking the whole thing apart. And so all these are now to the specified degree angle, and we can go ahead and get our surface prepped basically for the case half. So this part's pretty easy, guys. There's nothing crazy with this side of the equation, right? This is actually probably one of the simpler pieces. Just make sure your surfaces are clean. I did check the manual. It does say Yamaha Bond, but Honda Bond is the same thing. I like Honda Bond. It's the same as Yamaha Bond. Literally identical. Everybody will tell you that. And we're going to go around and dry our surface off so that, and by the way, it does tell you in the manual, keep the sealant a couple millimeters away from the journal bearings for the crankshaft and also the balance shaft. So we will be doing that. We will be keeping that away. And then that way we don't have any issues. And you can, you see like there's an oil gallery right here that goes over here towards the transmission. It must lubricate the trans or something like that. Well, you have to stay away from those. There's another one up here by the crankshaft. I'm not sure. Is there no seal on that? No, there's no seal on that. So anyways, what I do to apply the sealant is pretty simple. I have a paintbrush, because I'm an artist. I happen to have piles of these things. I've been using the same one for a while. You can see it does get hard, and then I usually just take brake cleaner and rinse it off. So we'll take this brush and very gently go around. Let me get my stool here. And we'll go around the entire edge of this thing very, very intricately. So I've done tons of Banshee cases like this too. So I know this method works really well already. It's just, sometimes it's a pain in the booty to get the freaking stuff to stick to the case half. So I'm constantly cleaning, and you can see there's some grease here. I clean that off. And I normally would use a lot, right? But I think these case halves are machined pretty well from Yamaha, so I'm not going to get too insane with it, right? But I am going to make sure that I have complete coverage What I mean by complete is this just light layer all the way around. I'm just taking my time and going around the edges. This tube of Honda Bond is probably like 4 years old by this point. It's probably time for a new one. All right, so that's the bottom section. I'm going to go up and around this side, I think. Just be really careful, like especially with this one oil passage right here. Like I don't want any of this getting into the oil passage. It's very critical, guys. Very, very critical. You know, and I'm just going around the edges. All the edges need to be done. I don't care if there's a little bit of sealant sticking out afterwards. I care more about keeping it sealed and making it so it doesn't blow it up later. Guys, what I'm doing now, I'm taking a razor blade and scraping off half of the sealant that comes over by the journal right here. And the reason for that is I don't want any of that getting into the oil passage and stopping oil from getting to where it needs to go. And that's exactly what the manual is telling you. The engineers at Yamaha are telling you, you know, make sure you're doing that so that way you don't affect the oil flow. And that's, you know, these things already have an issue with oiling. So we want to make sure we promote good oiling. We're not promoting bad oiling, you know. This is defeating my normal way of doing this because I normally put a lot on it. So I don't want there to be any issues. And I can always trim the outside of the, you know, gasket stuff off later. Okay, I think we're about ready to put our case half on. Let's take a quick peeker, make sure we didn't miss anything. It never hurts to double check stuff, guys. Never, 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 ever, ever, ever hurts. Measure twice, cut once, right? It'd be the same thing. We'll just look at our work, make sure we got everything done before we go and put the stuff together. So I'm gonna put some oil on my finger, just put a little bit on these journals here, just because. Just if I can avoid any issues, I will. It never hurts to have a little extra lube, huh? Don't take that the wrong way, please. Or take it the wrong way. Maybe you like it the wrong way. I don't know. What am I even saying? Man, I could just ramble and ramble and ramble about stuff. I think that's everything. One last look here. Let me see. All right, so let's follow the sealant. So that's going to be a cover there. So this can have oil past the block. That's a whole outer shell there. That's going to be encased inside of the stator area. We start again here. Come very gently. I don't know why the hell they machined an oil passage like this, man. I'd love to have a conversation with these people. So we're halfway across that. I think I'm going to put a little extra right there. It looks like it could use a tiny bit more there by the sprocket seal. Don't care if I have to wipe my brush off again. What's important is making sure this baby seals good. Come down here on the front of the sprocket seal, and we go all the way across to the clutch basket where the other seal will be. That's that, guys. Pretty simply put. Okay, let's get the uppercase, or the lowercase half on. So we can torque this sucker down and be done. Now, I have to do this very quickly because I don't want my sealant to dry at all. I want it to be, even though it actually doesn't dry fully. I know some of you are going to say that. But John, it's more of like an anaerobic type sealer where it flexes and doesn't dry. And I get that. I just want to make sure this is clean going together. And whether or not the sealant's going to dry, it doesn't hurt to practice urgency because I build so many of these things, and sometimes I'm using sealants that will dry, and you can't take your time. You can't get into that groove of being lazy and taking your time, you know? It's okay to take your time, but there's times where you don't take your time, if that makes sense. The main thing here is I just don't want any oil on the surface. I want it to kind of stick to the aluminum. And you can see that little passage right there had silicone in it, which could have been an issue with oiling to a bearing. Holy moly. It's literally small issues like that people just don't realize sometimes when they're putting stuff together. And that can make or break the life of the engine. You know, think about that. If you don't have the correct amount of oil going to something, you know, think about what that's going to do to the motor. Where'd this come from? We'll find it in a sec. What the hell? There, right there. All right, stay there, stay there, stay there. I want to go spank some cheeks with this thing, man. That's kind of the goal. Let's get this sucker on, man. It's getting too started so she doesn't move on me. And I just want to make sure. Oh yeah, she's pretty much all the way down already. I know sometimes when you're building these things, the case halves aren't always as friendly. So it's helpful to check stuff like that and just make sure it's going to be okay. So we're going to do the crankshaft caps first. That's these. There's your numbered pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The steps is grease the bolts, which they're already oiled, tighten to 22, loosen, then tighten to 13, and go 60 degrees more. That is what we're going to do. And that will get us our proper torque. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, 22 foot-pounds. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the cross one. Oh, they're even numbered on the caps. I don't even have to look up at the table. They literally have numbers etched into each one. That's pretty cool. So loosen the torque wrench all the way. Recalibrate it back to 13. That's 15. I need to go back to here. 13. All right, so we'll start with 1. Okay, so that's a very light torque. That's okay. 2. 60 is going to be halfway would be 45. So you have to come slightly past half. Okay. Okay. Okay, 4. I don't know if I'm going to be able to rotate this by hand or not with the way the cylinders and pistons are. I'm stuck in my head now. Well, I guess we can toss this back on quick and then try to turn it over by hand. Is it gonna work? Is it gonna work out? No, it won't work. No, it won't work out. Now, guys, when I do this, I'm going to put red Loctite back on these bolts. Just a little. Actually, you know what? No, I have blue. I'll just do blue. I like to do generous amounts with blue because usually blue will come loose if you really want it to. So I don't see anything wrong with putting a generous amount of blue Loctite on. Oh, that's right, because it has a... oh, I see. So that's literally just to create the... oh, what do we got in there? Oh, what's that? Let me clean that out quick. Literally, this is just to generate the power. It's an alternator setup. They have separated the pickup. There's no pickup coil anymore. They now do a gear on the other side. Oh, okay, relax. And then this one's going to get red Loctite, though. I can tell you that. I've had my fair share of experience with flywheels coming off, and although this won't shear a key, which is neat, and it'll probably still run being loose, I'm not chancing it. It could damage things, and that's kind of what I don't want to do. My goal is not to damage, guys. Okay. All right, now we can get this clutch piece back on that's been jammed down in here. We're going to finish torquing the rest of this in sequence, and then we're going to start assembling this and the cylinder head, and then that's literally it. This is pretty much done at that point. It's just, you know, you got a timing piece on the right side here, and you slap your covers and gaskets on. It's really simple stuff. So let me go ahead and get this torqued down quick. I won't bore you guys with all the minute details of this thing. The torque specs, they're on the table. So if you need to take a look at those, there's that. Pause the screen. I'll give you a little 5 count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. All right, switching sides. We've got our head gasket. Cheap Chinese goodness, I hope. I don't know, man. It's questionable, but so you guys could get an eye on it. It looks cheesy, but can't judge a book by its cover. Now, because we're not doing turbos on this motor, we're going to do it on that motor. I'm not going to copper spray the head gasket. I should check my dowel pins real quick. Let's see. There's one. I see one there. I think there's another one I saw here on the table. No, this one's got both the dowels already. All right. Dowel there, boom, boom. Okay. Cylinder head is clean and ready to go. I'll give her one final wipe down with a fresh rag and some brake cleaner. Make sure she's clean and ready to go. And believe it or not, we still get a bunch of dirt off of these things, even after they're clean. You just don't want oil on the surface. Once it clamps down and gets running and stuff like that, it doesn't really matter what happens then as long as you don't pop the gasket. I'm happy. Okay. Yeah, we're going this way, guys. Whoa, yeah, pizza pie in my face. Don't want that. It definitely squeezes down, that's for sure. Okay. We have to gather not our studs, sorry, our bolts, our head bolts. We got 2 cap nuts that go on the outside here, and the rest get these fancy dancy Allen key looking things with a washer underneath. A pretty thick washer too, might I add. And there's 10 of these suckers. And the torque sequence for the head, tighten, 3, tighten. So we have the pattern up here on the board. Grease threads, these are M10s, yep. Grease threads, tighten to 7.2 foot-pounds, then tighten to 18 foot-pounds, and then tighten 1 through 7 and 10 to 115 to 125 degrees, and then 8 and 9 go to 130 to 140 for whatever reason. 8 and 9 go further. 8 and 9 are these 2 cap nuts out on the outside here, so just taking my time putting these washers in. I love these long needle nose pliers. Picked these up a few years back at AutoZone. They were overpriced, but they are doing the job for a very, very long time. So sometimes you do get what you pay for. I've had other needle nose pliers like these fail much easier. That works for me. Let's get the small little guy here. Okay. And 7.2 is pretty simple. This one Did work before, so we'll give it a shot again. 5, 6, 7.5, because this is 7.2. Okay, let's do this torque sequence here. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm not gonna make you guys watch me do this. There's no point. All right, boys. So the last piece to putting the, well, I should say the last 2 or 3 pieces to putting this engine together is basically the clutch basket area. I have a brand new set of clutch discs. I have to go ahead and pre-soak those. I usually do 24 hours in automatic transmission fluid if it's a 2-stroke, and if it's a 4-stroke, I do 24 hours in 10W30 Mobil 1 full synthetic, because that's my favorite oil of all time. So with that being said, I can't do that right now because obviously I didn't soak the clutch plates because I'm a doofy and I didn't think about that. And then the other couple things, we have to do the water pump, oil pump underneath in the oil pan, put the oil pan on. I don't feel like you guys need to be bored with those minute details. There's nothing informational wise that I can give you with that. We're not doing an upgraded oil pump sprocket right in this video. That'll probably be when we build the turbo version of this motor. So there's no real point in making you guys sit through that. And this video is already long enough, right? And so I know that because I've been filming for several weeks on this engine build. So with that being said, the timing is pretty simple on these. I'm going to put a picture right here for you guys, right out of the manual. And that, again, I don't really see the need to like go through that. If you have the picture, you pretty much know how the timing goes. There's a mark down here on the crank for #1 piston top dead center. And then both camshafts have dots on them, just like YFZ450 does, line up with the flat of the head. And they have an I and an E that shows intake side and exhaust side. And then even in the manual, they show you which way the lobes should face and everything. So the last piece to this is the valve clearances. Now I already checked them. I cheated, right? I checked them already. These are in perfect condition. So I don't think this motor had a lot of miles on it. But I don't feel like I need to bore you guys with those types of details, right? We're not shimming them. They don't need to be shimmed. There's tons of gap there. Well within spec. As a matter of fact, I do. I have 10,000s written down already. So anyways, I don't want to bore you guys. I'm not here to create a boring channel. I'm here to create a fun, exciting environment that we can all learn and you guys can see some really sick creations being built, you know? And because I'm a nut and I like to go fast, I guess, you know? So with that being said, I'm going to cut the video off right here. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas. Don't forget to check out the Shopify store. Love you all so much. Thank you for stopping by to watch the video. Hope to catch you in the next one. We're going to be doing the powder coating and getting this thing fully ready to go so that we can drop this motor in. I'll have this thing ready to go. We'll drop that sucker in, and that'll be that. We'll be able to go ripping on this thing. I can't wait, because that 180 horsepower in a YFZ 450 frame, sheesh. I'm excited. Merry Christmas. Love y'all. See you later.